What is up, guys? Sorry about that. Had it wrong direction. How's everybody doing? Alrighty. Working on my wall and stuff. I don't know if you can see it up there. Got my signs and things put up. How you can see me in there. Been fighting the connection. Beer Stud, how's it going? I'm sitting here feeding my face. It's kind of what I'm doing. Getting caught up on some things. Been working, getting some of the stuff on my shop done. Tomorrow I got an eye appointment and hit the road tomorrow and the rest of the week probably job hunting. Got a few jobs lined up, or trying to line some jobs up here in the shop, so maybe that'll work out too. Hopefully I won't lose y'all, but I'll show you what else I've been working on. Turn this around. Just a cart, some paint and things I had left over and stuff, and I just kind of threw it on there. Now I'm gonna get this top lid to shut. You'll have to excuse this. This is the I'd spilled paint on it after I got it painted. It went into the clear coat, so I don't know if you can see, but I was airbrushing designs. It's supposed to be skulls and things, but like I said, I knocked over, I had two paint deals sitting up, and both cans hit the top of it and just splattered everywhere. But you can kind of see the outline of. And after that happened, I just kind of threw some paint on it and said heck with it. But everybody teases me about being the mod god, modifying stuff all the time and that, so I put that on there. These are in the paint booth right now drying. I'd take you in there, but and then I've been working on this up here, trying to get it all closed in. These are boards that I got from that last job I had, so I just used them up there kind of to hide the outside look, and put some pictures up there. Just some trying to keep myself busy from being so bored. Like I said, I'm going out probably tomorrow after I have my eye examined. Got a doctor's appointment and for my eyes, and they'll probably tell me how blind I really am, especially after welding and stuff like I was. I really don't miss that, my face getting, because I was doing it every day. Thanks, ma'am. Been up to anything else other than just chilling out, or? Man, I've never done any tools before. I'd have to kind of mess around with it. What are you thinking about dipping? I didn't realize how much that air compressor come through on there, and yet munching. I had thought about doing some lawn. My neighbor's got a couple of old watering cans and shovels and things like that. I probably could do. Me and H&H had talked about I talked about getting a lawnmower deck and see if I couldn't do one of them, you know, like he's done up, but do it in a hydro dip. I just need to go around and hit some places up for the lawnmower decks and things. Yeah, I painted up a toolbox for a guy in the Harley Davidson orange. Paid like $99 for the box, and then just brought it to me, and I had to sand it and everything. And by the time we got done with it, and with my labor and everything, you know, it wasn't really cost effective to do it. But it's a good idea. Now, if you could get it a little bit cheaper, but I'd been hitting the flea markets and things, and like that valve cover there has been done. The one back there has been hydro dipped. I've done a few guns. It's not hard to get into. It's just, it's really cost a lot to get into it, and it's really not, from what I've talked to people, unless you're in an area that people know what it is and that, you know, Roadrunner, I don't, you know, if you can buy the stuff to use, you'd be better off. Or somebody that's getting out of the business. I've stuck my neck out pretty far and bought new stuff, and no, it's not worth. Man, I'd like to see them beer stud. If you could take, maybe ask him to take a picture of it and that, because, you know, got this thought. I've got some old wrenches. I may just paint them up and dip them. You know, they'd be more for looks. You could do a shadow box or something maybe, and get one of them boxes like they do the flags and thing. I'm not sure what they call them, but they put a lot of the baseball uniforms and flags, and you do something like that with a bunch of different wrenches. That's a thought. I mean, I've done a bicycle, so it's the whole problem is with people on the hydro dipping part is it just seems like it's like anything else. You know, you do the work and that, and they don't want to pay you for your labor. They don't want to pay you for your time and that, and you know, it's time consuming, material cost. You get a lot of people that, you know, want something for nothing. I've had 3 people hit me up this week, you know, wanting something done, but they don't want to pay the price. Or you get the and I don't know, I was just talking to a buddy. I had a guy get a hold of me and, you know, said that he was really interested in me doing something for him, but he wanted to see my work. And I said, well, you know, if you don't have that much faith in me and you haven't seen my website, you know, I don't really need to waste my time with you on getting back with you, you know, because somebody like that's going to try to tell you how to do it. I've run into them people before in the past, and I'm not putting up with them. You know, I'll just if they don't trust me enough to dip the stuff for them or how it's going to turn out, you know, I don't need them. You know, like I said, it's just one of. Sorry about that, guys. Got kicked off. I don't. I've never done anything. You know, you got to scuff them up, take the chrome. They do have a process now. You can do the chrome, spectrochrome on it, and then go ahead and not clear coat it, put the dip, and then come back and clear it, and it'll stay on. But other than just being on a chrome wrench, it will not, I don't think it'll stay on there, and it won't look as nice. I don't know, I just, I've got such a bad, and I hate to put it this way, but a bad taste in my mouth with some of these people, you know, wondering, you know, what you can do, or, and I understand they want to see it, but, you know, I've got a website out there they can get on, look at what I've done, and it aggravates the heck out of me for somebody to send me a text, and I think he got it through another guy that I'd done some work for, but, you know, I don't have to, I guess I'm cantankerous in my old age that I don't have to put up with a customer that, you know, is wondering whether or not I can do a good job. And if you get somebody that's right out of the get-go comes off as a smartass, you know, I don't need you. That's just the way I feel. You know, I got other things, you know, I just don't want to waste my time. And basically I said he's a tire kicker, and I don't have time for somebody like that. I may be an asshole or whatever, but Well, and I'm sure, you know, I probably wouldn't. I mean, it's an idea. I'm thinking about, because I've got some orange. I got a couple different purples, a couple reds that I've got some cans out there that I could spray them, and it wouldn't take me much to dip them. And I've got enough different types of film that I think I may try it. Robert, you could tape it off on the inside and just leave it. I don't even know if I would use the tools, though. I mean, it'd be more for looks or something like that, unless you just really wanted to use them. And then you could not, you know, I could tape off where, you know, you use the tool part and just leave it chrome or whatever, and just do the whole outside of the wrench. You wouldn't have to do the wrench or the part that you use. But to answer your question, yes, it will change your tolerance. Like if I do a gun, you've got to, I don't know if this one will come apart or not. The tolerance is even in here. You got to watch what you do on your gun. Like if you sight ones that you sight in, or that it's got the have been special done, like laser sight, I guess is the word I'm looking for. You got to be careful on things like that when you dip a gun, because there's a lot of, you know, you got to tape it off really nice and keep the film from going in there, or it'll change your barrel and the sighting in of the gun. Yeah, it will throw it off, so I'm sure it'd be the same way with a wrench. Now, if they can do it in mass amounts and personalize it, because, you know, like the black finishes, and they'll probably copy us now that we're all talking about it, but I've seen industrial like camouflage and different things. I think they could probably do that before they chrome it or whatever, and just do it like on the black finishes and things, and add the hydro dipping. Now that would be pretty awesome too, especially if they done it for each customer to where they paid a little bit more, to where they could personalize that for themselves. Because I done a glass, the Yeti cups, and I done it in the women's breast cancer film pattern. And the color I had was not the best color. I wished I'd have picked a better color. But we went to one of them Christmas parties and done them Bad Santa. And if I'd have known that thing, people were going to fight over it like they did, I would have made up a bunch of them, because it was funny watching them argue and fight to try to get. And I didn't think it was going to go over. You know, I knew the breast cancer was a big deal, but Marco, how's it going? How long does it take you to get home? That's not too bad. Traffic around here is getting terrible. I used to like my drive to work. I'd just walk out the back door and walk into my shop, and nothing wrong with that. That's why I like to have mine done, but I worked on the shop a little bit. Worked on a couple little projects. I finished up the top part of my shop where it's opened up, and I hung a few of these deals here. I had a bunch piled in a pile, and I finally started hanging them. Tomorrow I'm going to start job hunting again. I got a couple people interested in me hydro dipping some stuff, but yeah, Robert, I've got a guy that wants to work with me that I worked with, and that may be why that job only lasted for a little while. I'd showed him a couple of my gun photos and things, and that's what he told me is to get on the gun websites and things. He thought that, he said there's a lot of guys looking to do that, and they send their stuff off. And a lot of these, skulls and things, I guess they send off and have them hydro dip too. And he told me to get a couple of them and dip them and then put them on this website. So I'm going to check into it. And the tank right now is just sitting there not being used, so I might as well do something until I find, a job or whatever, or get, and that's what I and a buddy was talking about. He said, I kind of wondered, he said, you've had a little bit of freedom there, so he said it's going to be kind of hard for you to go back for working for the man. And like I told him, I'm in no I'm just at the point I just don't feel I want to take anybody's crap. I've been down that road before, and it's just I don't know, it's really undecided what I want to do. I thought about doing that, and I thought about maybe getting a few cars. I know how to tint windows and things. Maybe start buying cars and flipping them. I can put a paint job on a car. I can, I can do most mechanic work on them, get them running. Oh, he's worked for himself, and so have I, and we both have put up with a lot of bullshit over the years, and he was a very sharp businessman. He just, it got to the point where he got tired of people's crap, He's kind of like I am. He ain't going to put up with a bunch of bullshit. And, I don't blame him. And this day and age, everybody wants you to kiss their butt, but they don't think that you should make any money. And, that's the whole problem. And that's what I told him. Maybe that's part of my problem is I I'll tell you like it is, and whether you like it or not, and I've had customers go out of my shop mad because, they was going to have their way or else. And like I told them, this is my shop, not yours. You're not telling me how to do the job. You can take it down the road. I don't care. And I know a guy that he hired a young man that's what he told me. He said, he said, this day and age, he said, I'll tell him they're a son of a bitch. And he said, that's why I got the young kid working. He said, he's helped my business. He's a good people person. He said he tells people what they want, and he said he said I know he could sell stuff to Eskimos. He said he's just that. And he says, with me, he said, I'm better off back in the shop. And that's what he does. He works in the shop. Now, if there's a major decision, he'll usually make it, but he lets the young man do it, and the kid, is a natural at it. Well, and a lot of people will do that. I had a couple people or a guy come in, bring a gun to me and told me, he said, I watched a YouTube video. It's not that hard. He took it home, messed his wife's bathtub up, messed the gun up, brings it back to me, wants me to fix it. And I told him, I said, I said, now it's doubled in price. What you just messed up, I'm going to have to go back, sand everything down and start over. And you want me to do it for the same price that I quoted you when you brought it to me? It's not going to happen. I don't know, it just seems like this day and age people want something for nothing, but they don't, And that's what I tell some people, that, you're not paying me for because I know how. It's the experience. I've had the experience over the years. I know where all the mistakes are. It's like a mechanic. If somebody brings you a car, you've run down that road before. I'm not saying you're out there to take the guy, but you got to pay for the lights, you got to pay for your gas, the parts, and people don't understand that when they own. And I think I truly believe everybody needs to own their own business, because then they would see what the guy that's owns the brick and mortar store, what he's going through and why he can't stay in business, or why his prices are high. They don't take into consideration insurance. They don't take into consideration taxes, federal and state. They don't take in consideration, if you screw that up, you just ate it, And there was a couple times $1,000, $1,500 goes out of your pocket in a month's time, and you've got a bill collector or the rent or the insurance is due. Your guys don't care one way or another if you've just screwed up, as long as they get their rent and stuff like that. And I don't know. It's funny how how we all, because I was one of them guys that before I owned my own business, I didn't understand, why they would charge so much to do that. But Well, and that was it. When I was a maintenance man in industrial maintenance, you know, I was one of the highest paid guys, and supervisors and things would come in and say, well, man, you're making the bucks, you know, we're paying you way too much. You got too many toys. But they don't understand that was all experience. I went to school, you know, there was a lot of times I went to school in the afternoon, you know, I left my wife and I was working third shift, you know, and I put in a lot of hours, and I put in the time to do it to where they were at home still in diapers. And then they come and wonder why, you know, I'm getting paid so much. And I guarantee now they're having to pay a company to come in and do what I was doing on top of everything else. I was fixing their machinery, plus doing things, changing the oil, and doing the refrigeration and different things like that. And now they have to pay somebody to come in and do it because they don't have the experience. They've run off all the old timers that knew anything. And, you know, that's how I learned, was from an old timer. You know, he taught me some of the tricks. And there's things that, you know, a tech or something's not going to know. You know, and that's going to get somebody hurt. But they would rather have an inexperienced person there and pay them less money than the guy that knows it. You know, and I used to get that a lot. Well, you're awful conceited. It's not conceited. It's just I knew my job. I knew how to do my job, and I was good at my job. And you know, that's why I was getting top dollar. But they don't see it that way anymore. They see, you know, well, we can get 4 guys what we're paying him. Yeah, but do them 4 guys know how to get a line up and run in a matter of minutes, or limp it along to where the next shutdown you can, you know, do the maintenance on it? And I've done that a couple times, got things running and got them till the next shutdown to where they got the production out. But, you know, that part, you know, really didn't matter. You know, it didn't matter that you put 12. There was one time I worked 24 hours around the clock just to get some stuff done for them. And you know, what thanks do you get? You don't. Companies don't care anymore. Well, and that's the problem with the managers, CEOs. I've seen a couple CEOs, and I've stood toe-to-toe with them and told them, you know, yeah, you may have a better education or whatever, but I guarantee, you know, if you say, and I may have said it too many times, but, you know, yeah, their job's hard. Yeah, their job's difficult, but it's people like me and the guy that's below me or whatever that is turning wrenches. Even the guy sweeping the floor is just as important as that CEO, because you still have to have what I used to tell them: if you don't have enough Indians, you know, you can have 100 chiefs, but if you don't have enough Indians, things aren't going to run smooth. And they would never understood that, you know. And I even had told a plant manager one time, he had said something to me when I was a lead man. He said, well, all your guys are sitting in the break room drinking coffee. And I said, that's right. Let me ask you a question. I said, would you not rather them guys sitting there and you paying them in the break room than out there and one of your lines down? I said, if we was out there, you wouldn't be making any money. I said, you're making money because you've got 3-4 maintenance guys sitting here drinking coffee. So, you know, you can't have one without the other. And that's what I used to tease him about. I said, you know, we're the insurance policy. And I said, you can tell. I said, 90% of the time my guys are not sitting in here if something's down or if something needs to be done. And he's like, well, you're right. He said, you know, he said, I just have to rough you up a little bit. Well, and you know, Robert, I'm not putting people down. You know, I wished I would have, excuse me, I wished I would have had the ability. I wished I would have went to college. You know, I took you know, I took a lot of courses and things that companies give me. I'll put it that way. You know, they paid for my education, and that's the way I think. If you're a young person now, that's what you should do. And there's nothing wrong with college. College has its place, but also, and I know some guys that are great guys, but it didn't. You know, and I know a couple of them that said it didn't help them a bit. But then there's others that have taken it, and I have had to deal with to where they think they're better than you. They think, or they try to put the some of the older generation down like they're a bunch of idiots. And don't get me wrong, I've had some kids right out of high school that think that, and that's what goes over me like a dose of salt. You know, we're all human beings. We're all you know, I'm not going to put you down because you went to college, but don't put me down because, you know, I chose not to go to college. You know, I've had the school of hard knocks. I know what, you know, what it is. You know, I've worked third shift. I've worked second shift. You know, I've done jobs that the average guy would have hated to do. I've shoveled crap. I've shoveled chicken shit. You know, I've got into sewer lines and things with my elbows all the way up to my neck. You know, and there's somebody in two things down flushing a toilet. You know, I'm not afraid to get into anything. It's just when people try to tell you or try to I don't know, just say that, you know, that you know, you don't know what you're doing, or you're not, you don't have the education for this, or and you know, I've seen guys with educations that choose not to do anything. You know, that's just, and I agree with you 100%, Robert. You know, and like I said, I've got a couple buddies that are very well educated, and they'd rather turn wrenches because, you know, like they said, the corporate life isn't for them. One I know was a plant manager, and he's like, I can't do it. You know, he said, especially when they want you to cut corners or do whatever they have to do, mainly is to get rid of manpower, you know, get by on just not having as much help, I guess. And see, I know a lot of people like that. I know a guy that, he told me, he said, I've got an 8th grade education. He had a hard time reading. I mean, you know, I have my days with math and things, but this guy was, you know, he had it, he was from the old school. And, you know, he had to go to work when he was a young man because their dad died, and, you know, he just never got to finish high school or anything, so he worked the farm. But he also, when he got older, he worked maintenance. And, you know, I worked for a company at the time. We was doing a lot of the we were going into more computers and things, and that's what they required us is to do, the courses, college courses or whatever. We had to take like pneumatics, hydraulics, things like that, and he was scared to death. And a lot of us helped, helped him along, and we helped him, with his tests and things because he did have a hard time reading. But they worked with him. And he was one of the smartest guys. To this day, I wished I had half of his knowledge. Because he could walk up to a piece of machinery, or if there was an instance with the refrigeration part of the plant we worked at, I would go get him because he was the sharpest one out there, and I would trust my life with him before I would a guy that had went to college or that had went through their courses of refrigeration and that. And Robert, that's good. I'm happy that you could be there. I wish that I was more worried about cars and girls and there's a lot of things I wished I would have taken a VOTEC school. I had an opportunity to have it paid. I could have went to Wyotech or one of them. I had them calling me because they seen the I guess my ability in that. I was just, it was just a natural. And I wished I'd have done it now. It's just one of them things I didn't. I had trouble all through school, and it was one of them that I struggled, and I thought, if I struggle now and that, when if I went to that, what is the chance there? But I wished I'd have done it to at least prove to myself I could, and I would have took some business. And I know it's still not too late. I wouldn't mind taking business management class. I wouldn't mind, taking some stuff to be a little bit more up on the business aspect of it, because like I said, I really have not give up on my dream of owning my own business, but I've got the part of the hard knocks, and I don't think it's for everybody. I think I've seen a lot of business guys out there that like I said, the school of hard knocks is I've done pretty good there. And I give you credit for at least going and trying, Robert. And I don't begrudge anybody if you can get an education, or anybody that is thinking about it. I think they should. I don't think it was for me. It aggravates me because I see, and I'm sure that people that are, there's just some people out there that they have it, and there's some that don't, but that don't mean by no means that they can't achieve things in life. And that's what I think aggravates me the most, is for somebody to tell you or talk down to you, whether you have an education or whether you don't have an education. Well, and I, I don't know. I know people that, like I said, I know a guy that he's. I know he hasn't had a very good education, and he's on his own businessman. Um, I've seen guys that are have went to college and things, and they're poor business. They'd be better off to work for somebody else. But they're making it. They're. I mean, you sometimes wonder how they've made it. I've got a nephew that he's very, very educated. He's very sharp. But if you was to ask him to change a tire, he wouldn't know how to change a tire. He wouldn't even know, what type of car, unless he was standing next to it. You or I can look at a car and say, oh, that's a 69 Camaro, or that's a 70 El Camino, or, just whatever. He's just one of them that has not a clue, but he is very sharp as a tack, and his talent is being wasted. He just... What's up, David? I don't know. Sometimes I'm very passionate, or I'm very I tell people how the cow ate the cabbage, or whatever you want to say, when it comes to that aspect, because I've been down that road, and I don't try to use it for an excuse. Somebody tells me they got a learning disability, or somebody says, oh, I've had it so rough because of this, or I've had it rough because of that. To me, that's just an excuse. We've all had the school of hard knocks. That's part of life. It's just where your life heads. Some of us aren't as lucky as others. And that's just part of life. I've got a buddy that can take a penny and turn it into $100. I am, in fact, one of them that's just the opposite. All right, Marco, see you later. Thanks again for stopping by. I don't know, it's, we all have our own way of doing things, and we all have what do I want to say, different outlooks on life, and that's what makes us all different. Well, and you know that you know, I get into that when I was you know, I tried to give people the best price that I possibly could. You know, you still have to pay your bills. You still have to keep the lights on. And there was some times that I thought I overcharged somebody. But I got to seeing where once I went back, you know, I maybe made $10 or $15 on a project, and by the time everything was said and done, I probably should have charged him a little bit more. But it was the fact that I didn't have what do I want to say? I had the materials and things, and I just didn't feel that I needed to charge that person that much for it. And I've lost out, and I think, you know, maybe that was one of the reasons why I didn't stay in business that long, because I was the guy that, you know, if you wanted your windows tinted, I would, you know, everybody else was charging $2.50. You know, I was charging $175 to do a car. A lot of them told me, well, I don't know how you're paying for your overhead. I knew how much I had in the window film. I knew how much everything was, and I thought I was doing it at a fair price. Same way with the hydro dip and some of the stuff. You know, there was a couple times I made pure profit off of it. And then there was one time I broke even, and, you know, it cost me. And that's, you know, what I'd been told by a couple other people, you know, well, you should have charged, you know, a specific price. You know, if you were tinting or doing a hydro dip job on a gun, and you say $300 for one, you know, that's what it should be, is $300 for everybody, not $150 or $75 or, you know, and that was my problem. I guess I felt sorry, or I could tell the people that didn't have a whole lot of money, and some of the stuff I did eat. You know, I tried to be, excuse me, an honest businessman. Well, and I did that with a guy because I knew he would come back, and he had the money to spend, and he told me that. He was from the old school, and once you, because he brought me 3 of his trucks back, he knew he could trust me. He knew I wasn't going to let anybody around his trucks. He was just that type of person, you know. He didn't want anybody leaning on him. He didn't want, and I don't blame him, you know. I don't want somebody leaning on my rig. I don't care if it's got scratches all in it, you know. If it was in my shop, I would do what had to be done, or if it was something else, you know, I knew there was something else, or I'd find something else, I'd call him and let him know. He'd stop down, and I would show him, you know, what I was going to do and what the reason was, and why I did it. And, you know, there was a couple times that, you know, I think that he gave me a little bit more than what I asked him for. It wasn't because I had didn't make any money on it. I think he just knew that, you know, I was being honest and upfront with him, and, you know, he felt he needed to give me a little bit more, and I appreciated that. And David, man, I give you credit for that, because I've seen guys do that and not make any money. You know, they estimate or they bid a job, and then, oh, well, we got this little extra over here. Can you do that for us? And the little extra ended up being a whole nother parking lot. And I've seen companies do that. I've seen places do that. And I'm that way, Robert. You know, I really think, you know, in the long run, we'll, you know, it'll pay off. You know, we may not charge enough or whatever, but I can sleep at night. I don't feel, you know, I've done jobs for a lady that the dealership was going to charge her $500, and all it was a gas tank. Yeah, they kept telling her it was the fuel pump in her truck, and it wasn't. The Isuzu pickups had a problem with where the bed sat on the on top of the gas tank, and it would rub that wire into on the gas tank. And they'd have done the same thing I'd have done. They'd have crawled up under there and they'd have cut the clip, put a new clip on it, and hooked it in, and she'd have never known the wiser, and they'd have charged her for pulling the bed and things off. And I told her if she'd bring it by the shop, I'd do it for $50, and she was tickled pink. What's up, Roy? That's fine. I've been having trouble with my connection here, but I don't know. It's just I can't. Well, and that's what I did. I cut them. I heat shrinked the wires. I wire tied them up out of the way. I put the good heat shrink. I mean, I spent probably $25 in getting the good heat shrink. You know, I done it right for her. I knew she didn't have a whole lot of money. It was just one of them deals that. You know, it was in the middle of the winter time. She needed the truck, and you know, I done what I could do to help her to get her going down the road. What's up, Toll Man? Oh yeah, David. She was tickled pink. The bad thing of it is she told me a year later she ended up still having to take it to a dealership, and I told her what dealership to take it to. The fuel pump did go out on her, and it was in the tank, but it got her by for a year. So, you know, but she still ended up having to pay $800 for them to put a new fuel pump in, and I thought that was just outrageous. Yeah, them free jobs usually get you in trouble every time. I've been down that road too. Well, that's what I'm saying, Robert. You know, even if, you know, I would have even done it for $100 for her. You know, they pulled the bed. They, you know, give her some rigmarole. They ended up fixing, and that's what they told her, that somebody had fixed that, and she said she knew, and that was part of the deal. They wanted to go ahead and fix the harness where I had spliced it and fixed it for her, and that, and they had told her that it was a good job done, but that was part of their deal to warranty the work on the new fuel pump, that they wanted to fix that too. So, and I said what they probably did is went to the back once they had the bed off, unplugged it back there, put a new harness or soldered it in back there and run a new harness up and charged her the $800. If they did that, you know, you don't know. They may have just said they did. Because some of, you know, I hate to say it, but some of these dealerships are shady about that. I know GM, on my truck, there's a deal on them that, and I think it was on a YouTube, my wife had looked up or whatever after I'd fixed it. She said, you done the same thing as what they claim that the dealership will do, is go in there and you know, shut it off, disconnect the battery, do what I had to do, put it back together, put the fuse back in it, and it was good to go. And, you know, they're charging people $200-300 to do it. I can't remember what it was I had to fix, but hey, Roy, I need a little bit of information on that. You know, if you can send it to my email or where it's at. I don't have a calendar here, but where the restaurant is, and I'm kind of interested, but what's up, Nick? It's downtown Memphis. Do you know the name of the... You guys fell. Are you okay? I can see clearly now. Well, except spots. I don't know if I have any Windex out here or not. So Roy, they got is it like a steak place, or they got a different variety of things? Well, David, and I done that to a, I think it was a Mustang. I think what we did is pulled the old one out of the guy's car and just put a electric one on the rail along the, but he beat that car to death, and I think it's still going, but he'd had some fuel pump problems with it. But what I told him, and I'd heard it a lot, especially on the Mustangs and different things, that pickup tube, especially, he was one that would always run the tank about dry, and them fuel pumps will not take it when you run them all the way. See, Robert, that's what I've always been told too. He was just one of them that it didn't matter, and he was, it'd drive me nuts because he'd only put $3 or $4 in one day. 2 days later, he'd go to the gas station, put a couple dollars in, and I was like, why don't you just buy it for a week and get it over with? I don't see how, Robert. It just, I don't, that just, it drives me insane when he, you know, he just put enough into where he was going, and I just, that's one of my OCD. You know, I fill up once a week or twice. You know, sometimes I'll go 2 weeks. Well, right now I can say I live paycheck to paycheck, and I still, you know, if I've got $50, I'm going to put $50 worth of gas in it and fill it as full as I can get it. I used to not be that way, but I don't think his was above a quarter tank each time. He, you know, $3 or $4 ain't gonna get it, and that's why I told him, I said, I can see why the fuel pump is going out on you all the time. Now, Roy, you got me hungry for steak. My kind of place, Roy. Man, David, if you kept that Blazer, it'd probably be worth, you know, you know if it was a four-wheel drive or what, but if it had hardly any rust, man. Dang it, Roy. You and your food. Yeah, Beer Stud, I've got a friend that his wife, or I should say his ex-wife, was that way, and he thought somebody was stealing his weed eater gas and his chainsaw gas. And he went out there one day and he said they were both empty, and he said he noticed when she started the rig it was smoking really bad. And he got to laughing, and he said I let her drive to town and everything. And he said one of his buddies had said, "Man, what's wrong with your wife's car?" And he said, she'd been stealing my gas out of my weed eater and my out of my chainsaw. And he's like, "Man, she's gonna screw that engine up." And he's like, "Well," he said, "you know, she's a little thief." So he said, I'm not gonna say a word." Yeah, that's scary. That mine, she goes and gets it and fills her own tank, and if it gets down to a quarter or less, she's putting gas in it. Or like if she knows we're going to get a bad storm, she'll go fill up. Now, my sister, on the other hand, I used to have to go take her gas because she'd run out. Now that's why she has AAA or whatever it is. They bring it to her. Yeah, David, that's usually when it happens, is at the wrong time. Just think, if we didn't have to buy gas and eat, we all would be rich. Roy and his steak, chicken, shrimp. I agree, David. Have a good one. Thanks for stopping in. I was thinking about going in and cooking some steaks. Boy, everybody's leaving. Yeah, Roy, I'll have to see how things are going and that. Hopefully I can make it. I was hoping to win the lottery, and that way I wouldn't have had to worry about it. I just showed up in a limo. I'd have paid for all y'all's meal. I would love to be there because I meet everybody. I'll just hire you some bodyguards and I could help. Boy, could I help out some people. I'd help a friend's dad out. They'd have their church they went. Then the other thing I'd probably do is go buy a place off the beaten path where nobody would know where I was. And then I'd travel around for a little while and go see all the different YouTube people and surprise them. I'd be like Gomer Pyle, surprise, surprise, surprise. Well, Roy, I think I'm going to get off here. Maybe go start supper. Wife should be getting off about, well, she's off, but it'd take her another 30 minutes to get home, so. Keep me informed on that other, and I'll try to come up with the funds or do whatever, and we'll just go from there. Gary, I'm fixing to leave. Sorry. Maybe back